Hello, my name is Andreas and I am a social educator. I'm also chairman of ChemFriendly Norway, and ChemFriendly is a user organization for queers and sex workers who are affected by illegal drug use. Our approach is harm reduction. We teach queer people how to use drugs in ways that prevent overdoses, rape and other harms. I'm also a porn actor, and kink plays a big part in the porn that I produce. I would say that I have more kinks than fetishes. I'm into BDSM, dominance, and as an exhibitionist, I enjoy being seen sexually. I've been living with HIV since 2006. This was before U=U, before PrEP, and back then HIV infections, also those who were done without intent, was criminalized in Norway. Back then, in my 20s, I struggled a lot with being open around my status. The practice of zero sorting, using coded language to seek out other men who were also living with HIV, made me feel a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And then when I became open about my status, I constantly had to convince my potential partners that everything would be fine as long as condoms were used. I always had to expect rejection. Around 2010, I got two HIV-related tattoos, one pus and one positive here in my groin. For me, this was partly about visibility, partly about taking control, and about refusing to submit to expectations that as an HIV-positive man, I needed to be sad and to regret all the choices that had led me to become HIV positive. I refused this. I was also a part of a toxic chemsex community before the term chemsex was established. It was a space where many HIV positive men gathered together, but they were also very destructive. Some fetishized infecting others with HIV, and rape was not uncommon. A few years later, U=U became established, and in 2017, PrEP arrived in Norway. Almost overnight, everything changed. Before getting laid, often was a struggle. Suddenly, I became desired, and nobody seemed to care anymore that I was living with HIV. In 2019, I started publishing amateur porn, and later I started publishing porn together with other content creators, and we deliberately emphasized that I was living with HIV positive semen. We eroticized it. Most of my partners in these films are also living with HIV, and they're into the fantasy of HIV and dangerous semen. That fact that they were living with HIV or were using PrEP, that allowed me to relax around it and to let go of some of the trauma from that toxic chemsex community that I had experienced. Posing porn is controversial for the same reason that bareback culture was controversial when it arrived, and for the same reason why PrEP was controversial when it was arrived. There is a generational gap between those who experienced the trauma of the HIV/AIDS epidemic and who lived with the very real truth that sex without condom equals death. And there's a gap between that generation and a new generation of queer people, queer men. We're not living in an environment where sex without condom equals death. And therefore we take other choices and we experience life differently. And that gap we can bridge it a little bit with knowledge, but we can't be trapped by our past either. I struggle with addiction and harmful drug behavior, so I do my best to stay sober. And as a sober person that has seen how dark chemsex can be, chemsex is neither inherently negative or inherently positive. Chemsex is. Some people are capable of taking care of themselves if they have the right knowledge, the right tools, and supportive social environments. One reason social predators get away with rape in chemsex is because chemsex is condemned and pushed to the margins. When something is hidden in shame, it is also pushed outside positive social accountability. So that's why queer drug users and chemsex participants need to organize and take responsibility in the work to prevent overdoses and rape. We need to speak up about our situation. And one example is ChemFriendly's campaign, which you can find in English on askfirst.no, which focuses on consent and preventing sexual violence in chemsex settings. To finish, I would want to say that queer people need to become more aware that we also have a culture. Pride is culture, but pride is maybe the only culture that defends itself against anti-pride forces by saying that one day there will be no need for pride. No other minority justifies celebrating themselves by saying that someday they will stop celebrating themselves. Like we have the right to celebrate ourselves. When queer men sleep around, when we fuck around, that is also a culture. The leather scene and other fetish communities are cultures too, defined with our own stories, histories, symbols, codes, ethics, and way of teaching consent, power, and belonging. And if we're going to stand together against anti-pride, anti-trans, anti-sex work, and anti-fetish forces, then we need to become more aware of our own history and our own culture. We need to stop defending ourselves by only saying that we are harmless, respectable, and normal. We have a lot to offer and to learn others because we operate outside of the norms. Queer people, trans people, drug users, sex workers, and kinksters, we are a gift to society.